Yo, what is up guys, Karma here and welcome back to another Borderlands 3 build video. Today I bring you guys a Mayhem 4 Amara build that works really well in the endgame. In fact, I just beat the Slaughter Shaft on Mayhem 4 with this build without any Guardian ranks. So this build that I'm about to show you is absolutely insane. So before we get into the build, I want to let you guys know that YouTube told me that 96% of people that watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you enjoy the content, please help me out by hitting that like button. And if you want to subscribe and change that proportion, then you can go ahead and do so as well. Anyways, let's just get right into the build. So what we're going to do, as always, is I'm going to show you the skill tree, just go through it fast, show you my weapons, and then over some gameplay of Slaughter Shaft on Mayhem 4, I'll go ahead and explain some pointers here and there and kind of let you know how this build works. But anyways, let's go ahead and start it off here on the red tree. You're gonna want to put 5 points into Anima. You're gonna want to put 1 point into Infusion, and I'll explain why later. You'll put 5 points into Tempest, 3 into Steady Hands, or you can put them into Wildfire. It's completely up to you. I'm gonna put them into Steady Hands. 1 into Dread, Deep Well, 3 into Indiscriminate, and that final point, you can put it here, or if you put 3 instead of Steady Hands, you put 3 here, just put an extra 1 right here. What I'm going to do is just put 1 point onto Wildfire, and then 2 points into Sustainment. Then you want to move on to the blue tree. You're going to want to max out Do Harm, get 1 point into Violent Tapestry, max out Restless, max out Transcend, put 1 point into Ascendant, 1 point into Alacrity, max out Wrath, max out Laid Bare, max out Awakening, and get the last point into Avatar. As for the skills, you're going to want to take Ties That Bind and Stillness of Mind. As for the elemental damage, I just kept that at Shock, and that's completely up to you. You can use Soulfire if you like. Just make sure to work around it. Sometimes you need this and sometimes you need Shock, so it all depends on what you need as well. As for the weapons that I used, I have a Dastardly Maggie with extra cryo damage after action skill end. I'm using Brainstormer, a redundant Brainstormer times 14. This is a Brainstormer you want to get. A lot of people don't explain this, but you want to take a redundant Brainstormer because it has times 14. That's times 14 pellets. The more pellets you hit with, the higher the chance of that little lightning chain effect that it does, and the more chains it creates. So having more pellets, it's going to give you more damage over time. So for my incendiary weapon, I have a Lenoge. This absolutely shreds enemies. And for the corrosive weapon, I'm taking a Queen's Call. The reason why I'm using this, first of all, action skill and weapon damage is increased by 100% for a short time. Another reason is because of the current interaction between weapons that spawn an additional projectile and Infusion and this little anointment I have on my grenade. On action skill end, gain 50% bonus shock damage. So what this does is, aside from those 3 bullets that ricochet with the Queen's Call, I get 3 extra from here and 3 extra from Infusion. So in total, there's like 9 projectiles flying around, and it just does a ton of damage. For the shield, I'm taking a Transformer. In Slaughter Shaft, sometimes there's zealots with shock damage that can really save you if you're close to dying. For the class mod, I'm taking a Phaserker. In my opinion, this is still the best class mod. The Spiritual Driver does more damage, but it's very situational. If you don't have space to run around, you're not going to do the damage you want to be doing. So that's why I just take Phaserker, especially now that they kind of nerfed it. And like I said, it's very situational, the Spiritual Driver, which is why I like to use a Phaserker. My grenade, you already saw it. One of these anointments is what you want in the grenade. Gonna make your life a lot easier. And finally, for the artifact, Elemental Projector Victory Rush. I do want to point out that I do have a Lenoge and a Queen's Call, but you can definitely just switch them out for Cutsmans. You can take a Corrosive Cutsman and an Incendiary Cutsman. It's probably the better option. I just really like these weapons, which is why I use them. So now we're going to get into the skills and just explain a little bit here and there. So just enjoy the gameplay in the background. I go absolutely off. You might see instances where I'm really close to dying, but keep in mind I don't have any of those extra buffs from my Guardian rank because I don't use Guardian rank. The reason why I don't use Guardian rank is just so more people can relate to the gameplay, you know? If I have like insane amount of points into my Guardian rank, people are going to assume that that's the only reason why the build is working for me. So if this build was working for me, if you're someone that has Guardian ranks unlocked, then it should definitely work for you. So anyway, let's just get into the synergies and stuff. So Anima and Tempest, these are going to increase your elemental damage. With Anima, your dot damage is going to be increased by quite a bit, especially the duration as well. It's going to be more than doubled. And Tempest, your elemental damage is just going to be increased, and your shock damage is going to be increased by an additional 20%. Steady hands, I picked steady hands just for weapon handling and accuracy, but like I said, you can always put those 3 points into wildfire, which whenever you apply a status effect to an enemy, it has a chance to spread to a nearby enemy, so therefore just increasing your dot damage overall. Now let's talk about Infusion real quick. I put 1 point into Infusion, which is basically going to convert part of my damage into my action skill element. So this time I'm using shock. The reason why I picked it though is not because of the conversion, but it's because of the current situation that's happening with weapons like the Queen's Call, the Rowan's Call, the Lucian's Call. I did upload a video 2 days ago talking about that. So if you guys want to see that, I'll leave a link in the description. But basically, whenever you shoot those weapons and hit a headshot, they spawn additional projectiles. Now, when you combine it with Infusion or anointments on a grenade or shield that say after action skill end deal additional bonus shock damage or something like that, you create additional projectiles. So basically, they multiply. So if normally you do 3, adding Infusion will give you 6, which is awesome. Then I picked Dread because it's going to give me 15% gun damage whenever we grasp an enemy. And if we kill that grass enemy, our weapon is going to be instantly reloaded. Which I'm going to be honest, on Mayhem 4 doesn't happen too often because of how much health they have. But when it does, it's fantastic. You don't have to reload. We're also taking Deep Well, so we increase our magazine size on elemental weapons. And usually, all we use is elemental weapons. So this definitely comes in handy. Then we like to take Indiscriminate. Indiscriminate creates ricochets. There's a 30% ricochet chance, but if we're shooting a grasped enemy, that ricochet chance is increased to 60%. I also like to use this because it works really well with the Brainstormer. As you guys know, the Brainstormer, whenever you shoot an enemy, it creates these little lightning effects. Well, with Indiscriminate, if we shoot an enemy and that enemy creates lightning effects, it can also ricochet with Indiscriminate. And Indiscriminate can ricochet to a nearby enemy, and that enemy can also create the lightning effects. So it can just be an endless cycle of just lightning effects everywhere, thanks to Indiscriminate. Now we get to Sustainment, and this is the skill that is going to keep you alive. So you need Sustainment for Amara on Mayhem 4. I only put 2 points in there because that's all I could afford, because I have to get all the way to Avatar on the blue tree. But 2 points is enough. As you can see by the gameplay, you'll see a lot of close calls. And I just bring out my Brainstormer or any weapon that does elemental damage, and it just regens my health. Now for the blue tree, we put 5 points into Do Harm and 1 point into Violent Tapestry. Now, the reason why we put 5 into Do Harm is because we're using Ties That Bind. And Ties That Bind scales with Do Harm. So the more points we have into Do Harm, the more damage those links from Ties That Bind are going to do. And these 2 skills are going to provide us with rush stacks as well. It's going to provide us with 10 rush stacks, and that's going to increase our damage with our Phase Zerker class mod. Next, I put a point into Alacrity that was for reload speed. The more stacks you have, the faster your reload speed. And you'll find yourself in a lot of situations where you're really close to dying, and that small increase in reload speed is definitely going to help you. Then we put 3 points into Transcend. This is for accuracy and critical hit damage, which is very important. We're going to be using the Maggie. We're going to be using the Queen's Call. We're going to be doing a lot of critical damage. So this is just going to help us get rid of enemies faster. Then we put 5 points into Restless, and this is just to have our action skill as much as possible. As you guys know, I have no Guardian ranks unlocked. So I don't have that glitch where I can have my action skill quickly. So that's why I need 5 points on here. If you guys have that glitch where Guardian rank makes it so that you get your action skill every 5 seconds, you don't need to put any points into Restless. Put them somewhere else. Then we put 1 point into Ascendant. This is going to buff our action skill augments, and we're using Stillness of Mind. What this is going to do is if you accidentally damage an enemy that's being affected by Stillness of Mind, you're going to have a little bit more time to react, because instead of instantly popping off of Stillness of Mind, it's going to be 0.75 seconds after. So anyways, let's move on to the next two skills, and these two are going to increase your damage. They're Laid Bare and Wrath. Wrath is going to increase your gun damage by 20% just for putting 3 points on it, and after action skill use, you get an additional 20%. The duration is 8 seconds, so like I said, the more you use your action skill, the more you're going to be able to use these skills. And Laid Bare is just going to increase gun damage that enemies take after being affected by your action skill. So the fact that we're using Ties That Bind, all those links are action skill damage. So if you tie that bind like 6 enemies, I don't know if you'll see it in the gameplay, I don't know what I'll include in the gameplay, but all those enemies are going to take increased damage, 25% damage from all sources for 8 seconds, which is absolutely insane. And then we put 3 points into Awakening. This is going to increase the rush stack effectiveness. So we have Alacrity, for example. Alacrity works on rush stacks, and that's going to get a 30% effectiveness increase, as well as Do Harm. This is going to increase the effectiveness of Do Harm, and therefore increase the damage from Ties That Bind even more so. This skill is very important to have. And finally, we put 1 point into Avatar. Now, Avatar, the most important part about it is that it provides you with 10 additional rush stacks. Another cool thing that it does is it allows you to use your action skill while it's still on cooldown, so you can use your action skill more often. The reason why I really like those 10 rush stacks is because we're using a phase Zerker class mod, and this class mod, for every rush stack that you have, you gain 3% weapon damage. So if we're using Avatar, that's going to increase our max rush stack count to 25. So that's going to give us a total of 75% extra damage if we have max rush stacks, which is absolutely insane. But anyways, guys, that is the build. The gameplay that you saw in the background is part of the Slaughter Shaft on Mayhem 4 run. I will upload the full run tomorrow, so if you want to see that, please drop a like. And if this is already way after the fact, I'll leave a link in the description to the whole Mayhem 4 run in case I already uploaded. But anyways, that's going to be it for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, found it informative in any way, please help me out by hitting that like button. And if you want to subscribe, that would be great. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.